Have you ever wondered what happens when a team's supposed future superstar becomes another franchise's forgotten puzzle piece? Well, buckle up, because the Montreal Canadiens might just be cooking up the most intriguing trade theory of the summer. One that could either be a stroke of brilliance or a costly mistake that haunts them for years to come. Picture this. Shane Wright, the player who was supposed to go first overall in the 2022 NHL Draft, now sitting in Seattle's system like a diamond in the rough, waiting for someone to polish him back to his projected glory. Meanwhile, in Montreal, Arber Xhekaj, the fan-favorite enforcer who can drop gloves faster than you can say old-time hockey, might be skating on thin ice when it comes to his roster spot. What if I told you these two players could be the perfect solution to each other's problems? Let's rewind to 2022, shall we? Shane Wright was the golden boy, the center that every scout had circled on their draft boards. Analysts were debating whether he'd go first or second overall. Fourth overall seemed absolutely impossible. Yet here we are, 3 seasons later, and Wright's NHL journey reads more like a cautionary tale than a success story. Don't get me wrong, 19 goals and 44 points in your first full NHL season isn't exactly chopped liver. But for a player who was supposed to be the next big thing, those numbers feel more like a whisper than a roar. The Kraken took a massive gamble when they selected Wright 4th overall, and while he's shown flashes of brilliance, consistency has been his kryptonite. Think about it this way. Wright has all the tools in the toolbox, but he's been trying to build a house in the wrong neighborhood. Seattle is still figuring out its identity as a franchise, still learning how to develop young talent, still finding its rhythm in this league. Sometimes, a change of scenery is exactly what a stalled prospect needs to unlock that potential everyone knew was there all along. Now, let's talk about Montreal's situation. The Canadiens have been hunting for center depth like it's the last slice of pizza at a hockey team dinner. They've explored every avenue, knocked on every door, and turned over every stone in their quest to upgrade their top 6 center position. Yet here they sit, still searching for that elusive piece that could transform their offense from good to great. Enter Shane Wright, a player who might just be the perfect fit for what Montreal needs. The Canadiens are a young, hungry team with playoff aspirations and a culture that could provide exactly the kind of environment Wright needs to flourish. Montreal knows how to develop talent. They understand the pressure that comes with being a highly touted prospect, and they have the patience to let a player grow into his potential. But here's where it gets interesting. To get Wright, they might have to give up something significant. Something that hurts. Something like Arber Xhekaj. Arber Xhekaj is everything Montreal fans love about hockey rolled into one intimidating package. He's tough as nails, he stands up for his teammates, and he brings an old-school edge that makes opponents think twice before taking liberties with Canadiens players. When Xhekaj drops the gloves, the Bell Center erupts like it's playoff overtime. But here's the brutal reality of modern hockey. Toughness alone doesn't guarantee you a roster spot anymore. Xhekaj consistently plays under 10 minutes per night when he's in the lineup, offers minimal offensive contribution, and has been, let's be honest, a defensive liability at times. In today's NHL, that's a recipe for spending more time in the press box than on the ice. Montreal's defensive depth chart tells the whole story. With Noah Dobson, Mike Matheson, Lane Hutson, Caden Gull, and Alexander Carrier occupying the top 5 spots, Xhekaj is essentially battling Jaden Struble for the 6th defenseman role. That's not exactly the trajectory you want for a player who's drawn interest from around the league. According to Canadiens analyst Brian Wild, Montreal wouldn't even consider moving Xhekaj unless they received a first-round pick in return. Wild was crystal clear about this during his appearance on the Sick podcast, stating that the organization absolutely loves Xhekaj and would only part with him for premium compensation. But here's where things get fascinating. Shane Wright was a 4th overall pick just 3 seasons ago. While his value has certainly fluctuated, he's still a former first-round selection with untapped potential. In essence, Montreal would be trading a depth defenseman for a center with top 6 upside, exactly the kind of calculated risk that winning organizations make. The beauty of this potential trade lies in its mutual benefit. Seattle gets a physical presence who can protect their skilled players and add some much-needed sandpaper to their lineup. Montreal gets a center with the pedigree and skill set to potentially anchor their second line for years to come. For Montreal, this move represents everything their rebuild has been building toward. They've accumulated talent, they've developed a winning culture, and now they need to start making the tough decisions that separate contenders from pretenders. Trading a fan favorite for a player with higher upside might sting initially, but it's exactly the kind of forward-thinking move that championship teams make. Wright would benefit immensely from Montreal's development system and the pressure cooker environment of playing in Canada. The Canadiens have a track record of helping players reach their potential, and Wright's skill set aligns perfectly with what they're trying to accomplish offensively. For Seattle, adding Xhekaj would give them a presence they've been lacking since their inception. The Western Conference is a physical conference, and having someone who can set the tone and protect your stars is invaluable. Xhekaj might not be a top-4 defenseman, but he's the kind of player who can change the complexion of a game simply by stepping on the ice. Every trade involves risk, and this theoretical deal is no different. Montreal would be betting that Wright can recapture the magic that made him a consensus top prospect. They'd be wagering that a change of scenery, combined with their development expertise, can unlock the potential that scouts saw in Wright when he was dominating junior hockey. Seattle, meanwhile, would be trading a skilled forward for a defensive specialist, a move that only makes sense if they believe Xhekaj can contribute more than Wright currently does in their system. They'd be banking on toughness and intimidation having more value than offensive upside. But here's the thing about calculated risks. Sometimes they pay off in ways you never expected. Wright could become the second-line center Montreal has been desperately seeking. Xhekaj could become the emotional leader Seattle never knew they needed. Both players could thrive in environments better suited to their respective skill sets. In the end, this potential trade represents something bigger than just swapping players. It's about recognizing when a situation isn't working and having the courage to make a change. Wright clearly hasn't found his groove in Seattle, and Xhekaj might be reaching his ceiling in Montreal's current defensive structure. The best general managers aren't afraid to make moves that might look questionable in the short term but could pay massive dividends down the road. If Montreal can turn a sixth defenseman into a potential second-line center, that's the kind of asset management that turns good teams into great ones. Shane Wright still has all the tools that made him a coveted prospect just 3 years ago. Sometimes, all it takes is the right opportunity, the right coach, and the right system to unlock that potential. Montreal could provide exactly that environment, while Seattle could benefit from the intangible qualities that Xhekaj brings to the table. So, here's my question for you. Are you ready to see Montreal roll the dice on a former top prospect who could be the missing piece of their playoff puzzle? Because if this trade happens, it might just be the move that defines both franchises' next chapter. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Do you think Wright can rediscover his magic in Montreal, or would the Canadiens be crazy to give up their beloved enforcer? Smash that like button if you think this trade would be pure genius, and let's get this debate started.